I'm David here with my bookstore cat, Clara. Hey, Clara. And welcome to the third installment of Adventures in Book Scouting. If you are a returning watcher, thanks for coming back. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. And I appreciate your coming to check it out. I appreciate everybody's views and whatever likes and comments you might want to leave. And anyone want to subscribe, that would be awesome too. So there have been quite a few adventures in the last week or so since I last recorded, mostly in the form of bag sales. Fill a bag for $5. I've done quite a few of these lately. I'm not in as much need of stock right now, and um, yet it makes sense in some ways to attend the end of the sale so I get some books for other purposes rather than just selling online. I find quite a few books to sell online as well. In fact, quite a few diamonds in the rough, quite a few gems. But I'm also looking for books I can sell, scouting for stores. I'm selling right now. My place to sell is Strand Books in New York. Every so often, if I get a carload of books, I trek up there and they make it worth my while. There's nobody where I live in the Philadelphia area that pays good cash that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong. Since I last tried, things have changed. But I was selling to Powell's Books for quite a while, shipping books over there. I'll mention that later on in the show, or whatever. This is a show in the program, the vlog, whatever it is. But I also look for things that I can sell at what is called the Punk Rock Flea Market. Here in Philadelphia, they have this 3 or 4 times a year. And I don't do well selling at any other kind of flea market, but this one I've been doing for many years, and I know pretty well what the audience is and what kind of books they look for, and I try to scout out books to sell there. A lot of classic literature, sort of time-tested and true authors and titles, and I really enjoy it. That's my only opportunity to really interact with the public as a bookseller. So, and when I get home and I go through all the books that I get and I'm sort of sorting them out, flea market, Strand, online, things that I want to keep for myself, because there's always those too. Another perk of, involved in going to these sales. And also there was a nice Facebook Marketplace lead that I got that resulted in me making a house call, going to a private residence in Villanova out on the main line, which is kind of a posh pocket of the suburban Philadelphia area, and getting some really nice books for very, very little. Expectations can run the gamut when it comes to looking at private collections. In this case, fortunately, they only wanted a flat rate of $25 for all the books that I saw fit to carry out of there, and I got 6 boxes worth, and it was very, very nice stuff. I mean, it was a lot of art-related books, older children's picture books with dust jackets, travel essays, books about specific places, books about ship building, shipwrecks, sailing. This is interesting. It belonged to the parent of a couple who was selling, I guess, trying to liquidate the contents of an old home there, and interesting fellow. I can sort of ascertain by just looking at the books and the house itself. Much well cultured, well traveled individual, and kind of sad in a way to be the one who breaks apart a collection. But I'm sure that a lot of these books are going to be finding good homes, and I'll really enjoy going through them. They don't have them right where I am to show, but I do want to show, as I usually do. I'll start off with things that I've sold in the last 24 hours, and starting with a couple that I sold on eBay. This is a bit of a slow time for me. I would call it a spring slump, which is usually typically a fairly slow time, and it also happens to be the time that I'm making, have estimated tax payments as a self-employed individual. You're responsible for making these quarterly payments. The first is due April 15th, like everyone else, and the second is due June 15th, only 2 month difference, and this can get a little tight. They're not distributed equally or evenly through the year. The other one's September, and then you don't pay again until January. So you have these different gaps between payments in the year, between April and June. Now things, when you need the sales to come in, it can be kind of tight. So so then I try to be creative and run the route of trying to auction things on eBay, things that maybe have sat for a while. In this case, this was an Easton Press title. I think I mentioned that this is a very collectible leather-bound, not a set, but a publisher. Very fancy end papers, and the gilt edges. This one's called this is the Atlas of American Military History, and I had it as a fixed price for $75. Even in this condition, it's a pretty scarce title, and I say this condition because it looks nice from the front, but it has some residue on the back and flaking to the gilt on what they call the foredge, and it also has a plate stuck in there, which that in itself can reduce the value. So it got a few bids at auction, and it ended up selling for a little over $30. So someone got a good deal on it, but I'm happy to, after having it for, I don't know, probably a year or the better part of a year, I'm happy to sell it. Another eBay auction sale I made, this was something I found more recently at one of the bag sales in question when I found it at Media, PA, the Upper Providence Media Free Library. It's one of my favorite sales, one of my favorite towns in the area as well. This is one volume of 19, a lot of 19 as I sold. I don't believe it was a complete set, though I don't know how many were in the set. This is the American Presidency series, published by the University Press of Kansas, and I believe they're issued without dust jackets, and they all in this like-new condition. Each volume deals with one or two presidencies, and I only got one bid on this, but it sold for $50. And since I had, pretty much filled one of the bags with this for $5, I sort of turned the $5 into $50. So, every little bit helps. These were some of the Amazon sales that I made. This is a book that I sold on consignment. I haven't mentioned yet that I do some consignment work. And typically, I split the proceeds down the middle, 50-50. There have been different arrangements, but in this case, that's what it was. And this is a reprint of Uncle Wiggily was a very popular children's book series in the early 20th century. This is a reprint edition, probably from the 60s. It looks like doesn't look like it's that old. It's been in pristine condition. And it's very nice. Got the black and white and color illustrations. And you can kind of see the $1.95 price tag there. If you I don't know if that's visible. Will indicate indeed that this is not a recent book. But this was sold for $60, so I'm happy to sell a really beautiful book like this. And another book that sold for $60. This I found at a library sale that I attended in September in Havertown, PA. In that case, I went to the preview night. They have it at just an annual sale, just once a year. And I'm really glad that I had gone to that. In that case, went to the preview because it was probably the best sale I attended all year. There was a lot of scholarly, very esoteric, technical music books. A lot of them related to performance or antique instruments like harpsichord, organs, organ building, technical aspects of performance. This one entitled Performance Practices of the 17th and 18th Centuries. And I sold quite a few books that I got from this collection that was donated to that library. And this one, the latest, for $60. Not a whole lot of sales, but I'm again happy with the average price that has been coming in. This is a book, another one of the books that I had mentioned in the previous episode. But the art book collection from New Jersey. This is another one of these pristine art books, Rembrandt and the Face of Jesus. I've actually sold this title before a few times, but in this case it brought in $50. So those are my sales that I'm gonna, after I finish this up, gonna package them and go to the post office, send them off. I'll highlight some of the things I found at some of the bag sales I've been attending lately. This is just sort of a way of explaining what kind of some of the things I look for that might not be obvious. They can't be too obvious because they're still there at the end of the sale. In some instances, it makes more sense to me to go at the very end of a sale, and in some cases, I will go to the first day, the first hour, or the preview sale. It sort of depends on what experience I've had there in the past and whether I feel like it's worth it to do one or the other. It depends on what the prices are at that particular place. Let's see. What was I going to say? Here's a book that I've sold many times in the past. I don't know if anyone just going, trying to get into book selling would recognize this as something that, from a box full of say, celebrity biographies, what would make this a book that would have value? I just happen to know from my own experience that it's something that sells, even in, an edition like this, which is just a later mass market size, smaller paperback edition with kind of a crease spine. It's still a $35 book. Frances Farmer, kind of a tragic film actress and subject of a Nirvana song. I don't know if that's something that makes her more of a cult figure or someone that makes her book more collectible, but that all I know is that it's still, I guess it's been pretty out of print for quite a while, and I pick it up anytime I see it. This is a Viking portable library in a hardcover edition with a nice dust jacket. Doesn't go for a whole lot, maybe $10 or $15, but I just have a weakness for books like this. Books that are in a series, older, mid-century, really nice looking jacket. And sort of in that same vein, there's a series called Everyman's Library, which I never find a lot of copies of the books out there. I think it's a British publication, and they've been in various iterations for many decades. Whenever I see them, especially the dust jacket, I'll pick them up, and they can go for $15 to $30 on average. Even if the jacket is a little shabby like this one, it has the rubbing. There's a sort of an American equivalent, I would say, to Everyman. This is the Modern Library series. Again, these are a little smaller than regular hardcovers, but there's a little series of them. They're numbered on the spine. And in fact, if you take the jacket off on the inside, there's like a checklist for all the different titles in the series. And the ones in the mid-century in particular had these nice illustrated covers, and I just really very fond in dealing with these kind of books. Especially, I don't collect. I'm not really a collector. I have a lot of books of my own for sure, but I do favor these kind of books, and I look for them for my own collection. So what else? Pauline Kael, a renowned film critic who published a lot of books, sort of compendiums of her reviews in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This book's from 1980, but it doesn't have a barcode in the back, therefore it was available, couldn't be scanned, so it was left for me to come and find. And I've sold many of her books through the years, and This is, I think, in the $20 to $25 range. But I always pick up her, her books whenever I find them. There's quite a few of them. The last episode I mentioned local history and how that was one of the things I'm happy to find. So there were in media I found a vein of books that were did not pertain to the immediate area. In fact, they somehow ended up there. They're about the Cape Ann area of Massachusetts, northern shore of Massachusetts. History of Gloucester, town on Sandy Bay, that's Rockport. Even without a dust jacket, that's about $25. And this one especially scarce. I only found one book online anywhere for this book, which is a history of Cape Ann granite, the granite industry in the area, for $150. I listed it at $100. And one of these times I'll go into more detail about what goes into my method or logic, particular logic in pricing, because that can be sort of an art into itself, and a very hard thing to sort of explain. But and there was another book I found it at another bag sale about this is not the Worcester, Massachusetts, but possibly pronounced Worcester. This is a Worcester township in Pennsylvania. Sort of like not the part of Pennsylvania I'm from, so I don't know for sure if I'm pronouncing it, if it's Worcester or like the Massachusetts version, if it's Worcester. This turned out when I got this home, this one was not very well made, and this whole spine backing came right off. But I think that I can glue it and repair it. I'm not really adept at repairing books, generally speaking, but this looks pretty straightforward. And even in this condition, it will probably fetch some money. It's pretty scarce. It's nice. I always try to look for older hardcovers, and they're really clean condition like this. Certain nonfiction books can be very desirable as well as fiction. This is The Ghost in the Machine. If it seems familiar, it was the Police took the title for one of their albums in the 80s. Arthur Kessler, I don't know what would jump out at someone to let them know that this is a book that you should, or an author that you should look for, except that I know that I'm pretty sure that's out of print, but it's a sort of a landmark book that touches on a lot of different. It would be hard to know how to categorize the book, if you were in a bookstore, where to shelve it. It deals with a lot of different topics, and I don't know if you call it historiography or social science, but it's pretty weighty book-length essay. So this is not even the first edition of it. It's a reprint edition, but from 1976, and you can see how nice a condition that's in. And that really, for older books, condition is very important. I mean, that enough, I would think, would be obvious. It's doesn't have really any wear. It's got the original color, no fading. It does have like a little owner's stamp, but that's it. Otherwise, there's no markings to it. And this, I believe, was a $30 to $40 book. This was another nice find. Composer Rimsky-Korsakov, My Musical Life. This is even more of a vintage hardcover edition with a dust jacket from the 1940s. Someone had thought of enough of it to put one of these protective mylar sleeves or sheets on it, which is a good indication that it's a. I suppose not always, but usually when you see that it's been placed in a sleeve, that should indicate that it might be a book of some value. In this case, about a $40 to $50 book. It was a very nice find to come across. Probably just leave it there for now, even though I certainly found other things. I haven't even finished going through all the things that I found at the recent bag sales, but in the interest of time, I do want to mention one more thing before I sign off. in the previous episode, I was wearing, I don't know if it was visible or if anyone even noticed, I was wearing a Powell's Book shirt. And, discussion sort of came up due to this new program I'm filming here with some former employees of Powell's, which I also have. I used to work there. The behemoth in Portland, Oregon, the city of books that takes up an entire city block. And called into question, I'm myself calling into question, whether I should be endorsing the place that at the time of the pandemic saw fit to lay off their entire workforce, and then, and make them reapply for their jobs. Strand Books, that I now sell books to, did the same thing. Mentioning this because, I know these are typically very venerated institutions for their independent status, and while I understand the desirability of highlighting or shopping at independent businesses for sure, I would just sort of hope or issue a plea of sorts for people in New York or in the Pacific Northwest to think more about supporting your smaller independent shops rather than these places that, once they get to the size of Powell's and Strand, I guess they become very much akin to brutal corporatist entities, not much different from the likes of Amazon, which people are more apt to condemn. But to me, what they did was really awful. People, a lot of long-term employees, never got their jobs back, and it was just a matter of crass opportunism. And I just would want to remind that it's not being an independent business that makes you virtuous. It's treating your workers with respect. So with that bit of editorialization, which I'm certain won't be the last time it'll pop up on this channel, I will say so long for now, and thank you once again for stopping to watch, and I hope you've gotten something out of your time listening to me today, and I hope that you will return. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons if so inclined, and I'll see you next time.